Beezlebop, boo-da-bop, bee-da-ba-da-boo. Beez-ba-da-bee-da-boo-da-bee-da-ba-da-boo. Hi, this is Jay from Coder House Technology Studios. I'm here wearing the XREAL Air augmented reality glasses. I'm going to talk through why we picked these glasses, what we plan to use them for, their technical specs, developer ecosystem, kind of whatever else comes to mind. So let's get to it. So first, kind of a disclaimer or anti-disclaimer. We purchased these glasses. They weren't given to us. We're not sponsored by anyone for these. We weren't asked to do any reviews of these glasses. So we bought these for our own use. So everything that you hear, everything that you see in this video is based on our feelings and our view of these glasses and our use of these glasses. Starting back in, I don't know, probably the 90s, we here at the studio began to have a fascination with wearable computers. There were lots of web pages dedicated to wearables. MIT had a wearable computing site. Columbia had a group dedicated to wearables. Folks like Doug Platt, Ed Starner, Steve Mann, they were building wearables using small form factor computers like PC-104s, binary keyboards, finger mice, glasses with monocles hooked up to them to give them a display. And even then, those weren't the first people to toy with the idea of wearable computing. We can go back to the 1960s, and there were already augmented reality glasses and heads-up displays for us to use. We did see, in the 2000s and early 2010s, some AR and heads-up display glasses became smaller and more lightweight. None of them has really lived up to what we had envisioned over time, what we thought would be available 20 or 30 years later. We've tried to build some wearables using discarded laptops and PC-104 cards, and you'd throw them in a backpack. You'd throw them with a laptop battery or like a battery pack that you cobbled together from like remote control car batteries, and they mostly worked. For us, the biggest failing or the biggest disappointment was always the display technology. It felt like it wasn't keeping up, or it hasn't kept up with lots of other technologies that we see. We have our phones, which are little wearable computers now. It just didn't become what we hoped it would become. So what did we hope it would become? The Terminator, of course. Overhead display through a pair of sunglasses. That was our ultimate vision. And some solutions came out like Google Glasses. Those monocles really didn't fit what we had envisioned. We wanted a full pair of like binocular glasses that would display images from a computer, allow us to see through into the world as we were doing it. So here we are today. Companies like XREAL, Rooked, TCL, they're starting to really reach or grasp for the vision of what we had imagined, years or decades ago. So a few weeks ago, we decided to put out the $400+ to purchase these and use them for our daily work, kind of get a feel for what they can do and what they can't do. And that's something in the studio that we're always trying to do is actually purchasing products and then using them in our daily work to see how they fit in with life, right? And then we can have a better idea of the things that we want to build with them. According to XREAL's documentation, these will project a 130-inch display. When we're using them at about 6 feet, it's roughly a 40-inch television. At 21 inches, it was about a 27-inch monitor. And if you're sitting back and looking at a wall that's 10 feet away from you, it truly is that like 100+ inch monitor for you. So a little more on the specifications behind this. It uses a pair of OLED displays, and you can look up Pepper's Ghost and you can see roughly how this generates the images in front of you. It's set up for a 3840 by 1080 pixel, 16 million color display, up to 400 nits of brightness, 2 speakers, dual microphones, and from a sensor's perspective, this has 3 degrees of freedom for your head tracking, an accelerometer, a gyroscope, magnetometer, and a proximity sensor. We couldn't find any response time data for these glasses. OLEDs are typically under 1 millisecond, so we're going to say sub 1 millisecond response time for these glasses. There's going to be lag for the USB and things like that, but it really shouldn't get in the way of being able to see those images near real time. The brightness, even outdoors with these, is really good. The colors look good. The clarity of the image is good to us. Some people have complained about blurriness in text, and I haven't seen it, but I can imagine, depending on the angle of the glasses as you're using them, if you have prescription lenses in them, could totally be the case. To drive the glasses, we've had these hooked up to our Samsung phone, and we've used them both in screen mirroring mode and using DeX, which is Samsung's desktop environment product. It's truly fantastic. I know people are also using these for Steam Decks. We have not, but it has to be great to sit there, sitting on your couch with a 130-inch display in front of you playing awesome games. So how do we hook them up into the computer? So these come with a USB-C connector, like this, and it uses USB-C alternate mode for the video display. Caveat, not all computers have alternate mode even if they have USB-C. So we've had to use an adapter to hook these up to our computer. So that's one of the negative comments about this product. And it's a computer hardware issue. It's not an XREAL issue. There are adapters. There's an adapter that XREAL is developing right now to help with this. It may be released by the time this video is out there. But we've purchased adapters off of Amazon based on the feedback of people in forums related to the XREAL Air glasses. You have to be cautious when purchasing the dongles, the devices, to hook these into your computer. Be sure that it supports audio pass-through. Be sure it supports data pass. So then you can actually use these in their full capacity on a computer that doesn't have USB-C or has USB-C without alternate display. Some of the HDMI connectors that are being sold, and it's really just a USB-C to HDMI adapter, they partially work. So they'll give you video but not audio, or video and audio but not data pass-through. And the data pass-through is not that big of a deal, but it's really the video and the audio if you want to use the speakers in the glasses themselves. There are lists of these adapters that work on the internet, so you can look those up. So the solution of using a dongle with these, it's not perfect, but it is usable. And the dongles aren't that large, so we haven't had an issue with using the adapters. We find it perfectly acceptable. Overall, the glasses are comfortable and lightweight. They're kind of big, right? A little bulky. And they only have the tinted lenses on them, which isn't fantastic. You can't have clear lenses in these, or even like a partial clear lens. It's kind of a bummer, but it's not a deal breaker. On forums for these glasses, people talk about removing the lenses here, and there are some brand name glasses with clear lenses or different colored lenses that'll fit into these frames without modification, but you do have to pop the lenses out of here and put those in. And not something that I'm going to try doing, at least not at this point in time, but something that's out there that people said works. These do work with prescription lenses, so they have little adapters in there that you can get prescription lenses made for them. I'm fortunate enough that I wear glasses, but I wear readers, so I just took an old pair of cheap reading glasses that worked for me, and I cut the lenses into the shape I needed for these frames, and they give you these frames with the XREAL glasses. Other than that, you can bring them and have prescription glasses made for these. I've heard it's expensive. It's like $300-400, maybe more, to have your prescriptions put in here, depending on the prescription that you have. So a little expensive. What does the developer ecosystem look like for these? XREAL has an SDK to be used with Unity Engine. It's not open source at the time of the recording of this, so you can't see what's actually in the SDK. We don't typically use Unity, which is what the SDK is built for, but we're going to start. Mostly we work in Unreal Engine, or we work with OpenGL, or we work with OpenXR, which is augmented reality framework that's open. We'll get used to Unity. It's just another thing to put on the resume, right? From what we see, XREAL is constantly trying to improve their SDK and their tool set around development, which has been focused on mobile app development. Now, we're looking to develop tools for example, the Jetson Nano, small form factor computers like that, and not necessarily to be used for like an Android phone. But what we found is if you put a solid color background, like a black background on your desktop, you can use any application on any computer. So you don't really need to use our SDK. You do lose the ability mostly to use like the 3DOF and their sensors and things like that are built into the glasses because you don't have their SDK. And at this time, as we were doing research around their ecosystem, they haven't made a commitment to support open source, which is sad from my perspective. Because from my perspective, they have a really great hardware platform. And I think if they embrace the open source community, it could really take off wonderfully as a hardware platform. There have been posts from their tech team that they're going to support Steam Deck, which officially is based on Linux. So maybe it's going to change. Maybe it's already changed since we've recorded this and posted it. If that's the case, I will totally eat my words. But really, XREAL, we want open source. Despite some of the negatives, every time I put these on, I get giddy. I mean, this is really so close to what I imagined many years ago, many decades ago, having that heads-up display right in front of you as you see the world behind it. It's truly awesome. It's really amazing. So what are we going to do with these? Really don't know yet. We do have some ideas. We need to talk through the design and go through the process, develop an HLD, a high-level design, develop a deeper architectural design for it, talk about the approach that we're going to take to develop something, and where we want it to go and what the journey is going to be with these. So the final part of this thing is going to be kind of a review. This whole thing's been a review, but this is the kind of the wrap-up review. Would I recommend someone buy these glasses? If you have the $400+ to purchase these, yes, 100% recommend it, hands down. These are not VR goggles. They're wearables that give you a heads-up display. These are not the Apple products that are coming out and things like this. They're augmented reality glasses. There are some shortcomings right now that the company's trying to work through. There's a lot of input from the community, and I hope XREAL listens, particularly around open source tooling for the glasses. But despite any of the downsides that we talked about, we're going to develop some products around these. We think it's a great technology. We're excited to see them starting to take the form of what we envisioned decades ago, and we'll see where they go from here. It can only get better, right? Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.